While other cruise lines have been changing, adding new features, experiences, and even totally rethinking ship design, Cunard Cruise Line has largely stayed the same. Now, I've done 20 cruises. I've spent 176 nights on Cunard ships at the time of recording. This means I've traveled on Cunard more than any other cruise line. Now, that's mostly because for the last 15 years, every time I go on a cruise vacation with my partner, he insists it has to be on Cunard. And the few that were not Cunard were never rated as good by him. But with all these innovations going on and all the changes since he last tried another line, is now the time to call it a day on those Cunard cruise vacations. I've been charged with planning our vacation cruises for next year and the year after. And drawing on all the experience I've got from the other 8 or 9 times a year that I go cruising without him for my channel, I've set about trying to convince him not to cruise on Cunard and to try a different line. This is how I got on. If you're new here, I'm Gary Bembridge. Welcome aboard. I'm here to help make it easy and fun to discover, plan, and enjoy unforgettable cruise vacations. With that in mind, let's go cruising on Cunard. Now, I hit a snag right up front. The challenge was transatlantic. He wanted to go on transatlantic, so one of those has to be one of those particular vacations. Now, Cunard is the only line that runs a scheduled transatlantic service on a very specially designed cruise liner. It's not a cruise ship, and that's the Queen Mary 2. They run 7-night crossings from Southampton to New York and back. The season basically starts at the end of the World Cruise in May, roughly, and runs until about October time. They also do a couple of winter crossings that goes on to the Caribbean at Christmas. They're the only line that has a scheduled season of transatlantics and a dedicated ship. But I did have an alternative, repositioning cruises. Now, repositioning cruises limits us in some ways to March, April, and September, October. This is when the ships are moved from the Caribbean to Europe at the beginning of the season in the Mediterranean, and then from Europe back to the Caribbean to start the Caribbean season. The challenge is most of those ships don't go from Europe or the UK to New York. They tend to go to the Caribbean, but there is some to find. The other advantage is there is a huge choice of those. All the premium lines that compete with Cunard, like Celebrity, Holland America, Princess, probably even P&O Cruises, they all do repositioning transatlantics. Even ultra luxury lines do it, the more family resort lines, your Norwegians, Royal Caribbean, and so on do them. So there's lots and lots of choice, and they tend to be pretty good value because demand for those is not always that high. We've done one of those before and it was fine. It was good value. It was on P&O Arcadia. However, Cunard Transatlantics won the day. They're the experts at transatlantics. They've been doing it for about 100 years. They understand how to schedule every single day of a transatlantic. They have an amazing program with enrichment speakers. They have lots of events. There's a sense of event. There's a very special atmosphere. You have beautiful balls. You have grand afternoon teas. And the whole sense of experience and the whole sense of being part of something special is just never created anywhere else on a simple repositioning cruise. Also importantly, the Queen Mary 2 as a liner is designed to handle the vagrancies and the ups and downs, literally, of the North Atlantic. So it's a much smoother trip overall than it is on a normal cruise ship. Mark, who although loves cruising does suffer from seasickness, found the Queen Mary 2 on crossing the Atlantic was an absolute must. So that was a challenge. I lost that particular one. For many people, repositioning is great, but nothing beats a Cunard Transatlantic. Next to address was the grade of travel, because I felt there probably is a better option with all the changes out there than perhaps Cunard can offer. Cunard have 3-class system on their ships. They're one of the last to make it quite as class-based as it appears to be. The whole ship is based around this system. So you have Britannia Grill, which are inside to balcony cabins, but they also include some premium balcony cabins, Britannia Club. You then have Princess Grill and you have Queen's Grill. It's a bit like economy, business, and first class. Now, the other lines, of course, all have this system. They all have balconies, insides, suites, etc. But Cunard really make it much more integral to the whole experience. Now, Mark loves the Queen's Grill. He likes the fact that you have the open-seated dining, but you have the same staff, the ability to order off menu, you can have caviar every night. He quite likes the whole pampering that comes with that Queen's Grill experience. The cabins, They're good, they're comfortable, and they're spacious. A Queen's Grill cabin, we would normally go a Q6 or Q5, which is the lower end of Queen's Grill. It's basically about the size of 2 balcony cabins. They're great cabins, they have butler service, and they're very comfortable. However, I have seen phenomenal suites on other cruise ships, but more importantly, other cruise lines now have a much more integrated premium experience with ships within ships. So for example, you've got MSC with their yacht club, you've got Norwegian with their Haven. Inside those areas, you have the suites, you have a concierge lounge, you have a dedicated bar, you have a restaurant, you have a swimming pool, and all those kind of facilities. Other cruise lines like Celebrity are doing similar things. On Cunard, it's not quite the same. On Cunard, the Queen's Grill suites are dotted around the ship in various parts. You have those restaurants, Princess Grill, Queen's Grill. You do have a grills lounge area, but it's nothing particularly specific. So once you head out of your restaurant into the ship, there is no kind of class system. In fact, the yacht club and the Haven create much more of an enclosed and special experience for people traveling in premium cabins. That's not really the case on Cunard. Now, I've traveled and looked at suites on other ships, but the critical thing, though, that I realized with Queen's Grill for Mark was there was a sense of magic about it, the sense of service, the menu. It is a very elevated and very unique experience. So I realized that convincing him to move from the grills experience to perhaps a ship within a ship was still not enough to convince him. That's when I realized the real reason for Cunard and wanting to go on Cunard was much deeper than actually the cabin or the restaurant or having access to a dedicated area. What I realized is it was the overall Cunard experience, the Britishness, the decor, the formality, and a tradition. Cunard oozes Britishness throughout everything it does. The senior crew, the way the things are done, it's very British entertainment, humor. It's very familiar, certainly to Brits. They appeal to those outside the UK, especially people in the US, for example. There's a real Britishness about everything they do. The decor is also very distinctive and different. It harks back to the glory days of the liners crossing the Atlantic. It's an Art Deco kind of style. It's very classic. You know, from the outside, their ships, particularly things like the Queen Victoria and the Queen Elizabeth, look like any other cruise ship. In fact, they look pretty much the same as many of the Holland America ships because they are actually the same class and structure of ships. But once you step inside, you step straight back into a world of tradition, a world of heritage, a world of the glory days of the crossings. It's a very distinctive look and feel the minute you step into that ship. It's hard to define, but it's a very different feel and ambience the minute you step back in. You're transported back in time to a more glamorous age. There's also an enormous amount of formality and tradition on Cunard. So for example, I brought up the issue of the dress code. Many people think the dress code on Cunard is very antiquated. However, it's very unique to what they do. They're very strict on dress code. So as other cruise lines are moving to more relaxed dress code and no dressing up, on Cunard, even informal nights are what most cruise lines would consider extremely formal. So men are expected to wear a jacket, a long sleeve shirt. You don't have to wear a tie any longer. You used to have to. Ladies would wear really smart dresses. That's an informal night. On formal nights, gentlemen are expected to wear either a tuxedo or a dark suit and tie. Ladies can wear glamorous cocktail dresses or even up to almost ball type gowns. And it's very strictly enforced. If you don't want to dress up in that dress code, theoretically, you're only able to eat in the buffet restaurant and you shouldn't even be in the public areas. So it's pretty regimented and pretty strict. However, it is part of what Cunard do. Unlike other cruise lines, they're sticking with the tradition and the old way of cruising, and that becomes part of the romance and the appeal, certainly for Mark, is a sense of dressing up an occasion on vacation. It's part of what he's looking for. Some people think it's antiquated, but for many people, it's part of the allure and attraction. So it may sound old-fashioned, but it's actually becoming extremely unique within the cruising world. Again, it's part of that whole process of stepping into a glamorous world, not like on land, not like on other cruise ships. Dressing up becomes part of the Cunard experience, especially on the transatlantic when you have all day and evening to enjoy the ship. So I thought all of that tradition would be my opportunity to switch. They've stayed largely the same, offering that traditional classic experience, while other lines in their same class like Princess, Holland America, Celebrity, they've changed, they've modernized, they've relaxed it. However, it becomes part of what Cunard is. So I had to find another angle. Cunard offer a very classic, very traditional cruise ship and also a very traditional and classic onboard experience. An experience and process that has been around for decades. Choices are pretty limited, and this I thought could be the opportunity. Specialty dining, for example, Celebrity and Princess, they have lots and lots of specialty dining options. Even Holland America has more than Cunard. On Cunard, specialty dining is not really an option. You really only have the veranda. However, within the restaurants, they have very big menus and there are choices. You do have, as I mentioned, the veranda, you've got the buffet, you've got room service. But actually, specialty dining is not a big thing on Cunard. The venues are relatively limited. Holland America's got the Music Hall. Celebrity on their new ships have Eden, that big experiential dining and entertainment place. Cunard has the Queen's Room, where you do dancing in the evening and perhaps have some shows there. But they don't have these big new modern venues. It's not core to what they do. All those competitors are trying to add new flagship, innovative venues and places where Cunard has kept it fairly simple and classic. Could this be an opportunity to get him to switch? The casino on Cunard is pretty small and limited, and Mark likes to play blackjack. However, it was actually enough for his needs. The shows are pretty dated, I think, on Cunard versus all the others. They're pretty standard review type shows versus the investment and high tech that we're seeing on other cruise lines, even the latest Holland America ships. In fact, I think they feel very dull and out of date. However, again, they were not the reason to switch cruise line. The shows were good enough. They were enough to keep you busy of an evening. The Wi-Fi is pretty dire in my view versus other lines, especially Princess and Celebrity, which now have incredibly fast Wi-Fi. However, his point, I don't necessarily need that when I'm on vacation. The issue was that the ships are actually big enough to have choice. There are enough venues, there are enough bars, there's enough to do. It's not too big. However, the other elements were much more important. The experience, the ambiance was bigger and more important than the venues. So what about itineraries? Could that be the way to go? The Cunard fleet is pretty small. It's had 3 key ships, Queen Mary II, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Victoria, and a 4th one on its way. So it's a pretty small fleet versus its competitors. So there is much more limitation on the places you can go. However, I realized this was not really an option because we've traveled on Cunard to North America, both the East Coast and the West Coast. We've traveled to the Caribbean, we've been to Hawaii, we've been to New Zealand, we've been to Australia, we've been all through Asia, we've traveled around Japan, we've been to the Mediterranean, and we've been to the Norwegian fjords. If we wanted to, we could also go to South America and Alaska and Africa if we wanted to. So although the fleet is much smaller, you can pretty much travel anywhere in the world you want to on Cunard. So those bigger fleets on the competitors may give us more choice, more opportunity of timing. However, itinerary alone was not going to do the trick to get a different line chosen. And of course, we have loyalty on Cunard. We're Diamond and we get perks like added Wi-Fi, laundry, and all kind of other perks and benefits. So I came to realize 2 really important things through this whole process. Cunard, by actually staying true to what it is and has been, is actually becoming much more different to the others. The other lines are actually blending into each other. They're changing their dress codes. They're focusing on specialty dining. They're looking for bigger and better bells and whistles and headline grabbing features. But actually, they're becoming more and more similar. Cunard actually stands out even more than it did before because it's unique, it's different on its dress codes, its looks, its style, the way that it operates, the grill system, Britannia, Princess, Queen's Grill. It is actually extremely different to the others, which are becoming more similar. I also realized that once you find something that works, there's nothing wrong with sticking with it. My obsession is with trying new things. It's fine for me. I have the opportunity to cruise up to 10 times a year, which is what I'm doing. So if some don't work out, it doesn't really matter to me because I have others coming. But if it's your only cruise vacation in a particular year, like it is for him, sticking with what you know, like, and has been proven makes sense. That, tied with the fact that Cunard is actually standing out more and more for the competition, all of that considered means that actually both of our trips next year and the year after will be on Cunard. Now I recommend that you find out more about Cunard by watching this video of tips and advice about their transatlantic crossings, including I answer the frequently asked question about how smooth or rough the seas are when on those crossings. So click now and I will see you over there.